Unbound Quest is for entertainment and inspiration, not professional advice. We're not liable for your actions. Copyrighted material is used under fair use. See description for full disclaimer. Welcome everybody to my first recap of my first training week. I hope this finds everyone really well. I hope you're all healthy and happy and going after your dreams. Alright guys, so we're on to leg day again. We're starting off with the old hack squat. Now last week we were doing 5 reps at 80 kilos, and this week I managed to add another 10 kilos, so 5 kilos aside, and I managed to do an extra rep every set. So instead of doing 5 sets of 5, we did 5 sets of 6, and we added 10 kilos to the 4 working sets, as opposed to the first one, we were actually at 80 kilos. So total net volume move was 2,640 kilos, and that is up 640 kilos from the last session. We then moved onto the 5 sets of 10. Now, last week we were doing 5 sets of 10 at 60 kilos, and now we are doing 5 sets of 10 at 70 kilos. So we've increased our net total volume of weight moves for this one from 3,000 kilos to 3,500 kilos, which isn't too shabby at all. Now, just when you're watching this, you can see my feet position are roughly in the middle. Like I said last time, I only really have my feet there because my ankle mobility is best in that position. So as I'm coming down, if I have my feet lower to that pad, I actually start to lift up on my feet and my ankle mobility is terrible. So I've placed my feet in the center because when I come down, I can go all the way down and the soles of my feet stay flat and my ankle mobility is best. So I get a full stretch on that quad. All right, we're on to our third laying hammy curl. Now, we've actually increased the weight 4 kilos from the last session, and I'm pretty sure we've gone up a rep. If I go back and have a quick look. No, we've kept the same reps. So we've done 5 sets of 6 at 43 in comparison to last session where we did 5 sets of 6 at 39. So our total volume moved was 1,290 kilos as opposed to 1,170 kilos last time. So progressively overloaded there. We then moved on to 5 sets of 12 and we increased the weight by 2 kilos, and we also increased the rep by 1 rep per set. So we progressively overloaded there as well. We hit a net volume of 2,040 kilos as opposed to last session, which was 1,760 kilos moved. So good progressive overload with that one. Quite happy, had to dig quite deep with that one. Try to keep the tempo and the decentric as is with the 4 seconds, but definitely very challenging. Probably put most of that to working a 13-hour day and then trying to progressively overload at the end of the day, but nonetheless we got it done, and hopefully next week we can increase, I think, the reps, because by the looks of it I was maxing out here and struggling to add extra weight. Alright guys, so right here we're looking at the glute focused RDL. Now, I'm no expert at this exercise at all. To be completely honest with you, I absolutely despise doing these ones. I've been trying to slowly work out how to push the load onto my glutes in the feeling side of things. As far as I'm currently aware, the way that I am doing it is pushing the load onto my glutes, but when I'm doing the exercise, it definitely feels like I'm just doing a normal stiff-legged deadlift and it's just hitting both hammies and glutes. Now, this is the one exercise that I'm doing for glutes for the entire year, so time will tell if this is definitely enough. Now, we're doing 5 sets of 6 here at 120 kilos, so that's actually up 20 kilos from last week. So last week we moved total net volume for those 5 sets of 5 at 100 kilos and got 2,500 kilo volume. And this session, with the added rep and the added weight, we've actually got 3,600 kilos, which is not too shabby at all. We then moved on to 5 sets of 10, and we went up 10 kilos from last week, and we kept the reps the same, but we got 4,500 kilos of net volume moved in comparison to last session was 3,900 kilos. So we progressively overload quite well with that one. Also, guys, I forgot to kind of mention when I needed to do my standing calf raises, it was being used time and time again by someone else. So I ended up just doing the calf raises on basically the leg press machine, not the actual one, the one that you just adjust the weight with the pin, because I felt like it replicated the standing position because my feet are as straight as they can be. So I did 10 sets of 10 at like 120 kilos or whatever it was. Obviously, it's variably different to adding weights to an actual standing calf raise, but I needed to get something in the bag. So I half-assed recorded myself doing it to show you guys that I did do those calf raises, even though it wasn't the normal standing calf raise machine. So didn't bother going into how much volume I moved or anything because there's nothing to compare to, and it's just a different machine altogether. So still did it. I'll put a set or two in there to tell you or show you what I'm trying to say. Alrighty guys, we're doing a little recap on our fourth leg day. So we were training at Well Gym in Midlands, good little spot. We started off with the hack squats. We were trying to progressively overload from last week, where we ended up doing 5 sets of 5 at 90 kilos. And I got to say, guys, I was pretty underslept as well for this session, but nonetheless, we caffeinated it up, got that pump mixture in, and we loaded it up an extra 10 kilos from last session. So 100 kilos on the hack squat, and I decided to do an extra rep for you guys. So instead of doing 5 sets of 5, I managed 5 sets of 6 at 100 kilos, bringing the total volume for that one to 3,000 kilos moved. Now that was actually significantly more than last session. So last session was 2,640 kilos moved at 5 sets of 5 at 90. So we've gone up pretty well on that one, especially considering the lack of sleep. My heart variability was like sitting above 120, even resting in between sets, so I was not feeling that good. I'm not sure if you can tell. Then moved on to 5 sets of 10, and we went up 10 kilos from last week as well, so we're up at 80 kilos instead of 70, and the total volume moved for this one was 4,000 kilos, so we're up from 3,500, so 500 kilos up for that one, progressively overloaded very well. Now, I actually went and did standing calf raise in between hack squat and my laying hammy curl, just to get my heart variability a little bit further down. Usually I do standing calf raises at the end, but we decided to just do it straight after the hack squat. So I wanted to progressively overload a bit from here. So I've gone for an extra 2 reps and pretty much kept the same amount of weight. So we're at 115 kilos, which is only like a 5 kilo up from last session, but we have increased by 2 reps per set. So 5 sets of 7 at 115s brought our total volume to 4,025 kilos. Keep in mind, guys, last session when I was up at work, the standing calf machine doesn't exist. It's just a Smith machine calf raise, and that was being used by a few people. So I just hopped onto like a sitting down calf machine. So your legs are still straight. It's pretty much a standing calf raise, and I just did 5 sets of 12 at like 120 on that machine, but I didn't really record it down because it's not a fair comparison. So we're just trying to go up from the session before. We've gone up by 5 kilos, total volume 4,025 kilos, and then we've done 5 sets of 12 at 90 kilos and brought the volume to 5,400. So we're slightly up from the previous session before. After the calf raise, we then went to the laying hammy curl machine. Now, I felt pretty good for this one, even considering I wasn't very rested. My hamstrings felt reasonably recovered and quite strong. So I managed to go up 3 kilos from the previous week. We kept the same amount of reps in, but instead of doing 43 kilos, we've gone to 46. So the total volume moved for these 5 sets of 6 was 1,380 kilos. We're up from 1,290, so we progressively overloaded for those 5 sets of 6. We then had to drop the weight down slightly because on this machine, the variability on weight going up or down would just exceed it by too much. I think it went from 32 to 39 or something, and I was like, I can't do 5 sets of 12 at 39. So we've dropped it down to 32 kilos and decided to go for more reps. So we've gone for 5 sets of 15 at 32, and that's brought our total volume move to 2,400, which was still up from last session. At the total volume was 2,040. So we've still managed to progressively overload 360 kilos from last session on this one. So I'm pretty happy with that one. Now remember, every time you finish on this machine, guys, wipe that thing down like you're trying to stop the spread, guys. 2 weeks to slow that curve. Let's fucking go. Alrighty, guys, it doesn't take a genius to work out that I'm definitely not at the Well Gym in Midland. Moved down to the Well Gym down in Bunbury as I had commitments down that way. So I still got it done in that day, but I was having to move gyms. So a little bit of time difference for that one. But nonetheless, we got it done. Definitely had a bit of a sore, tweaked lower back. So I managed to get out 5 sets of 12 at 90 kilos, which brought my volume up from last week to 5,400 kilos compared to 4,500. So I feel like progressively overloaded very well on that one. I did try, however, to go up by 20 kilos on the heavier sets, and my lower back was really feeling like a little niggling injury was about to happen. So I only managed to bust out 2 sets of 4 repetitions at 140 kilos. So we've dropped the total volume for that one roughly by 1,300 kilos, but we did go up in weight lifted by 20 kilos. So a little bit of a strength gain there, but the total volume definitely came down. But I feel like I had to listen just to my lower back there. I didn't want to end up injuring myself just pushing through, because I have to look at everything else that I'm doing. As I'm not taking any rest days, I'm just putting my body through like constant torment. So when my body does kind of tell me we're at a bit of a potential injury, I have to listen. Otherwise, it's just going to get in the way of every other day that I'm working out. So you're just going to have those days sometimes, especially when you're trying to progressively overload in and out for a whole year.